Hello, Internet! Today I have with me Sam Bentham and Jamie Boyt. So, hello, you two.
Yo
Hello.
yo.
And there's been a few feathers ruffled actually today. So, we're just going to talk over a few things that have been happening in VGC land. And we're going to start off with the whole thing about entry fees. So, here's my special slide about entry fees. Here we go. So we can see that the Liverpool Regional, which I'm probably not going to, so it doesn't exist, is going to cost about €35. London International Championship for Masters costs £40, which is about sort of €45 and about $50 ish. That'll be
It's about 30 euros
decreasing over time. But anyway, Euro jokes aside, that's a lot of money. So what do we think about these entry fees to start off with? The floor
They're
is
too
open.
high. Like £40 from what was probably, it was like £10, £15 last year. It's a big step up.
Yeah, I mean,
think there's.
on the face of it,
Sorry.
it is a lot of money, isn't it? What are you going to say, Sam?
I just think, look, on sort of a general principle, there are, I think, two camps of people here that need to be satisfied. So you've got the camp of people like ourselves that have been for years saying price support is garbage, price support is really, really garbage. We'd be happy to pay money to have better price support. And then you've got the sort of more casual crowd, if you like, the people that go to an event for the experience, to have some fun playing Pokemon. And, you know, with all due respect, that's a fine reason to go, but those people don't tend to be within the sort of cash prizes that the sort of
Yeah.
the £40 entry fee is supposed to be covering. So what we've had up till now is a few years of everything's been free up till last year when there were a few things that cost £10, £15, something like this. And we've had prize support, which has been sort of universally called garbage because it was. What's happened now is we've gone too far the other way. So there are a small group of people who, happy or not, will pay the £40 because they think they have a reasonable chance of top 16. Is it top 8, top 16?
I think so.
Something like
Yeah,
this?
it does
Top
depend
16
on
if you get like
how
over
many people.
300.
Yeah, over
Okay.
300 is it?
I think so.
And
I
do you
thought it was
really
over
think they're going to be
500,
300 people
but-
with this cost?
Yeah,
Most likely
very
not.
unlikely.
So
Yeah.
this is what I was going to say, is that because you've headed too far the other way towards a competitive crowd, actually what's happening is doing nobody a service, because the people who would otherwise turn up and push us up into this top 16 bracket are now not going to turn up, and rightly so. Right, for £40, while for one event it's sort of, well, it's a fair bit, but you could deal with it if it was just once. But for the fact that it's and now a series, they're not nationals anymore. There will be multiple ones of these. It's going to stack up.
Well, we don't know how many of these are going to be. I mean, if there is only going to be one of these international championships in Europe, then maybe you could justify paying this amount of money for the event.
I can't see that happening, to be honest. Not this early in the season. Just because, especially considering the best finish limit is 4, given that they moved nationals down to best finish limit 1 last year. I think the fact that it's now 4 for these speaks volumes about the volume of events they think they'll be running. So yeah, all I was going to say is I think there is a happy medium here, and I don't think we're there.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think when they announced a few months or however long ago it was that there was going to be, more price support for these Pokemon, regionals, you'd get all this money and all the rest of it. I must have been like really naive. I thought, Pokemon, they really respect us. They want us to keep playing. They're going to put the hand in their pocket and they're going to, give out some better prizes. But it turns out that, we're the ones paying for the prizes, which doesn't quite work the same way, I don't think. I mean, we understand why there needs to be an entry fee, don't we? I mean, there's the costs involved, massive costs involved, and a lot of events don't even break even as well. And obviously, the organisers do need to get their money back at least from running the event, else, no one would run the events. So we do need to have these entry fees, but I don't know. I think this is a very experimental, this tournament. I mean, especially with the whole thing with Sun and Moon only being out for 2 weeks, the high cost, the point that there needs to be 300 or so people for the top 16 to have prizes. That is very doubtful looking at this cost, basically. So, we're going to be paying a lot of money, and only maybe 8 people are going to be getting something back, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, actually, you've got to factor in all the other costs as well, because it's not just £40. There you go, that's it. Got to buy the game, got to buy a DS if you need one, got to buy all the hotel, all the food. It's going to add up, and an extra £40 on top of that is not going to help.
Yeah, you could go on holiday basically for the price of this.
Yeah,
Like, go somewhere really nice.
a lot of people are. Like, London is their holiday now.
Well, I suppose. I suppose London's quite a nice touristy place for non-UK people. But
So on the point of there not being in sort of our view enough places paid for this to be worthwhile, it's actually quite interesting in that I've just done some quick back of an envelope maths. So if we assume 300 players, which is maybe a little bit high actually, but I digress. And then assume the top 8 get prizes at that, you are giving cash prizes to the top 2.5% of competitors, which is actually, I've just run some maths on the recent Grand Prix London for Magic the Gathering, and also on something else. I just googled the StarCraft UK Championships. It's actually comparable in both of these events. It's actually around 2.5% of players that are getting cash prizes out of it.
Oh,
So
really?
I don't
That's
think that the prize support is about industry standard.
Okay.
And certainly, a lot of these games are a lot more expensive in general. For example, Magic, you have to buy cards. I mean, not last weekend, it's limited, but it was a £70 entry fee. Held at the same place, I should add. It was held at the XL in London. But I think the key difference here is that in this, it's a very big, as well as a step up, it's also a culture shock to the community here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to sort of deride the community and say they're overreacting. I've already said I think it's too much. But there is, from 10 to 40 is a big step up, while Magic events have costed 50, 60, 70 pounds for a while, and you get a lot for your money at these events. They have like artist booths from people that do art for the cards, and lots of vendors, and thousands of people turn up. It's essentially a convention. You don't get that with Pokemon tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I was gonna sort of think about. I mean, I didn't want it to all be negative. We're gonna try and get some positives. I mean, maybe £40 sounds like a lot of money, but maybe they just haven't announced everything that we'll get at the moment. Maybe we'll all get like a world-style goodie bag or something. I mean, that would definitely make the £40 a bit more worthwhile.
Yeah, and I should stress when I was talking about the Magic event last weekend, actually, you pay a £70 entry fee, but they give you a playmat, sets of sleeves, deck boxes, this sort of thing. So you do. So at these sort of typical esports events, you do tend to get at least some entry participation reward. It's usually exclusive to the event as well. It'll be a playmat that's only given out at that event or something like this.
Yeah. Because then, like, the event itself will make merchandise and the stuff you're given worth more because it is just an exclusive event, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And while it doesn't always pay your entry back, I think it sweetens the deal for a lot of people, and it appeals to the people who. Because at the end of the day, the people who are really, really competitive will come anyway. But it will appeal to these sort of things, these merchandise will appeal to the people who are maybe going, well, I would come, but £40 is a lot of money. If you can say, look, you get this free plush toy or something like this, or the free, the DS mats like they give at Worlds or something like this.
The other thing
for the event, then that makes it a lot more worth it.
Another thing that worries me a little bit is this event is actually pretty long, and for Masters in VGC, day 1 is on the Friday. Now, if you get knocked out on Friday, is it going to be worth you sticking around on the Saturday and the Sunday? Are there going to be side events? We can presume that there probably will be, but I'd hope that there's going to be something that, some exclusive event or something that would make you stay there, something that would make your £40 worth a bit more as well.
They could do something like the Boston Open was, and have like a mini regional there.
Yeah, that would be a really good idea, actually. I mean, if there was a regional included in that, that would definitely make it a bit more worthwhile.
Yeah.
It would make more use of the venue, space as well. So,
the problem with the Boston Open was that it didn't count towards the best finish limit. So I'd be okay with this on the proviso that it doesn't disadvantage players for still being in the main event by saying this doesn't count towards any best finish limit. So it would have to be sort of a mid-season showdown or an extra regional on the Saturday, with the counting towards the best finish limit, but then you can still make the argument that, well, actually, all the good players are going to be in the main event still. So you just get an easier event. So I think it's quite difficult to give high-paying events. You can hold Premier Challenges and things like this, I think, just fine. But I think it's quite difficult to give, to say, well, let's have a regional on the Saturday, for instance, because not all, that's maybe an exaggeration. Pokemon is Pokemon after all, but a good deal of the most skilled players in the room will still be playing the main event. So you'll end up with an easier event.
I mean, if not a regional, definitely Premier Challenges, especially because of the drought of Premier Challenges that the UK has. I mean, if they ran, 2 or 3 Premier Challenges on Saturday and Sunday, that would definitely make it more worthwhile as well to stick around for. I would say so.
Yeah,
So,
I would agree.
Another thing, I suppose, not really want to making this too negative, but another thing is that TCG and VGC players are paying the same entrance fee, I believe, but the TCG prize fund is a lot bigger, so that's something that maybe we can complain about a little bit, but I suppose, they have to buy the cards and we only have to buy the game. Maybe it's more expensive for them to compete, like, outside of the entrance fee.
It is a lot more expensive in fairness to the trading card players to let them compete, and it's not just like they're paying to a third party, and they're paying to TPCI and then a third party's organising the event. They pay to play the game. They pay into TPCI and then they play in a TPCI event. So you can argue that they are contributing to the prize fund in that way.
Yeah.
Whether it should be to the extent it is open to debate. But I am not directly opposed to saying, well, yeah, the TCG, put a lot more into TPCI's coffers, as it were.
So, well, what's our final judgment then? We think it's too much, but they could make it worth our money if they gave us, some kind of like a little goodie bag and ran maybe some Premier Challenges, some other events where championship points were available as well. Is that a fair judgment, you think?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, my ideal sort of thing is around a £20 entry fee, and then side events are sort of, Premier Challenges. You could pay a £5 on top to enter those, if you had to. And then that, it gives you some incentive to make day 2 because you don't have to pay for the side events at the chance of some championship points as well. But I am not opposed either to this idea of keep the entry fee quite high, but give some merchandise. It's something that other esports card games do all the time, and it's been very successful for them. So,
yeah. I mean, if there was like a London exclusive Pikachu plush, for example, then not only competitive players would want to enter the event for the the competitive tournament, but casual fans would want to enter just for the plush as well. So yeah, that's a good idea actually. I mean, they have got options to make this work. I mean, we're not saying that this is terrible, everything's gonna fall apart and no one's gonna turn up. There are ways that this can actually work out, I think. So don't want to be too negative, but I think we've talked about this for long enough. Let's go on to our second topic, which, well, I'll just bring up the slide. Here we go. It's about this new timer, and it's honestly actually scares me a little bit, just because it's so different to what we've been used to. And I know you play chess, don't you, Sam? So
yes.
I'm gonna come to you first and see what you think about this.
Okay, I have a fair bit to say on this, so I'll probably stop a little way and let you guys talk for a while, so the people watching don't get too bored of my voice. But so as you rightly say, I come at this from a perspective of having played chess for some number of years, and the chess timer works in a very similar way to this. So some people have even called this a chess timer. It's a little bit different in that. Obviously, chess is a turn-based game in the very literal sense of the word. So only one person's time is running at a time because you make a move, they make a move, you make a move, they make a move.
Yeah.
While right now in Pokemon, obviously, you can have both people's time running at the same time. My first thing that I'm going to say, though, before I comment on the general implications of it, is that, for goodness sake, I hope there is an overall game timer still.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm assuming that there isn't. That's what my fear is.
So I discussed this with Ethan Hall at the Oval Premier Challenge at the weekend, and we basically thrashed out a way that you could make a battle last 3 hours if there's no overall game timer. because you can just you can just press buttons, make animations, they do no damage, repeat the process.
Yeah.
So I imagine that there is still going. My theory is that there will be an overall game timer. Although I don't know whether that's more in hope or expectation.
Yeah. I mean, my first assumption was that the timer would still run down when the animations went, but if that is the case, 10 minutes would really go very quickly. Especially with these new Z moves.
Oh yeah,
So-
Eevee's is so long.
Yeah.
So the way I envision this working is that each player has a bank of their time, and there is a separate overarching game timer. So that obviously your time stops running while animations are taking place once you've clicked your moves in, but the game timer would continue running. So this serves two purposes. It stops games going on too long by players making largely ineffectual moves, and it also stops things like chancey minimize stall from winning games. So which obviously, if you have just the your time system, you can basically play these things on autopilot, and they become, there's some skill in the setup, in fairness, but they become a lot more viable.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was worried about, because all the teams with like the the Sableye and the Shuckle or the minimize blisses and all that sort of stuff, it is a very mechanical sort of team. Like, turn one you Trick Room or Simple Beam or whatever, however it plays. It's very mechanical, so you can make your moves very, very quickly, and your opponent is the one that has to take their time thinking what they're going to do. So in that respect, like, the stall team has got the advantage with this sort of timer.
Yeah, and I think, sometimes you do have to adjust your game plan because people will have counters. So there's thought required there, but I think the point is that once it's set up, you can it takes 2 seconds, right? Toxic this thing, protect, toxic this thing, minimize, toxic this thing, and then just wait. Essentially, you can just press A 4 times. So everything I'm about to say with respect to the your time system is with the proviso that I am assuming that there is an overarching game timer, because it would just be untenable otherwise.
Yeah, okay.
So that being said, I think this is a great development. Only on the basis that, so again, coming from chess, the general consensus within the chess community is that time management is a skill, in terms of identifying when key moves are and identifying when the position demands that you calculate really deeply, and when you can just make some sort of natural move and things will turn out fine. So that is considered part of the skill of chess, and I think the same can apply here.
Yeah, definitely.
Sort of in identifying key turns. So I guess the short version of the hour-long rant I could have on this says, because you can differentiate between which turns are I can do this in 5 seconds and which turns you can stop and think about for a long time, I think it increases the skill ceiling of the game, and that can only be a good thing. The only thing I would say is I would prefer people to be able to do that to a greater degree. So I think it's 60 seconds is the maximum.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's 60.
I would prefer it to be 90. I wouldn't say unlimited, because then you'll end up with the overall game time of people stalling out 4 minutes at the end.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't have that. But I would like to see people be able to differentiate to a greater degree. But I think in terms of increasing the skill ceiling of the game, it's a very good development.
Yeah, I can see it being a good thing if there is an overall timer as well. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'd assumed that there was not going to be an overall timer. I mean, what do you think, Boy? Do you think there'll be an overall timer?
Like, I think your time implies there won't be, but there really should.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same. Like, honestly, Sam, I thought that there was not going to be any overall timer. In which case, that's why I was scared.
I don't think that'd be tenable, honestly. Only because you can then have battles. Okay, the 3-hour example that I contrived, with Ethan Hall is extreme. But you can easily have games that go on for half an hour, 40 minutes. I could quite easily see that happening.
If the animations don't count towards the time, yeah.
Yeah. If they don't, well, I mean, if they don't count towards your time, but they can't count towards your time, right? Otherwise, it's just ridiculous, right? It's a case of saying you have managed your time really well. So you end up with things like you've managed your time really well. You have just clicked the button to win with 20 seconds of your time remaining. But we're going to time you out because your move takes a bit too long to appear on the screen.
Well, I mean, this is
Like-
taken from the Pokemon website. It says this will mean matches can be decided more quickly than in the past, allowing players to enjoy thrilling battles. I mean, it seems like they want to speed things up. I mean, VGC was already quite a fast-paced thing, I think, but
Yes.
they want to speed this up even more. I mean, I suppose it would make tournaments would go faster, which is nice in a way, but I don't know about this. I'm really worried about it. I mean, I think if anything, like I think this your time system is maybe they've brought it in thinking that it will make the timer less of a thing because people can play to time. You know, think of Wolf's World's team in 2013. He had, you know, Hippowdon and Regigigas and not Regigigas, Registeel and you know all sorts of stuff like that with Toxic and you know just to basically wear the timer down and win that way. I think with a system of your time like this, if there isn't going to be an overall battle timer, I think it's going to make the timer so much more of a thing, and I'm actually scared that people will be able to build teams to win on this new timer.
Yeah, like we all know the obvious example with Minimize, but there's stuff like Shedinja as well that people have just glossed over.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
example.
like because if you take them down so that they can't touch your Shedinja at all, then you can literally just mash your buttons until you pick the move, and it would take a second, and then you don't waste any of your time anymore. And then they would have to constantly, like if you left two of their Pokemon on the field just against your Shedinja, they would have to do two inputs against your one, and they would always lose in that situation.
Yeah,
Whereas you could always win on time in the previous timer setting.
Yeah, like things.
I think there has to be an overall game timer. You just can't. The central way Pokemon is supposed to work cannot function otherwise. There was something else I was going to say here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think.
Okay.
Mostly in the sense of.
Yeah, I mean, things like Shedinja and Minimize and all the rest of it. I mean, you really should have something on your team that deals with that anyway. But it was always like the timer was always a fallback to those kinds of sort of shenanigan strategies winning. Like no one really wants a minimized team to win a tournament, really. I mean, if it's within the rules, fair enough. But I mean, no one really wants to see that. So I don't know. Like. I'm presuming that there isn't going to be an overall timer. I'm hoping that there will be, but if there isn't, this is maybe going to be, well, it'll definitely be interesting. I mean, in the stall situation, let's say there's like they've got a Shuckle left or whatever that's got some evasion boosts and all the rest of it, because they'll be putting their moves in very quickly. That means that there's going to be lots of opportunities for a critical hit on that Shuckle, which is a good thing. It means that, you know, maybe the odds are a bit more in favour of the person hitting the Shuckle, but, I mean, you can get to a point where something's maybe had a guard split on it or, you know, whatever, when, like, a critical hit doesn't even one-shot something. So those are the extreme sorts of scenarios that I'm a little bit worried about. I mean, and if they can exist, then they will exist, because people will make teams to exploit that. So, I don't know. I mean... Is our conclusion on this? We think it's good as long as there is an overall timer as well.
Yeah, we need to wait for that for a proper conclusion.
I think that at the end of the day, the problem is that without the overall game timer, your win condition against these stupid teams doesn't work anymore. And to be honest, like. If there is no overall game timer, then London is going to go from being very interesting into extraordinarily boring, because it's just going to result in the most competitive players just trying to break Minimize for 2 weeks.
Well, that's if anyone does bring a Minimize strategy. I mean, you never know how these things are going to work out, really.
No, but
we've just seen the Alolan Muck now, so we know that there is at least one Minimize.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like to be honest, like if there is no overall game timer, then as soon as we know what's in the game and all the base stats and so on, I will set to work trying to break whatever stupid strategy exists.
I mean, Roar is the best move in the game, and it bypasses evasion. So, just saying.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is if they set something up and you knock two of their Pokemon, you can't Roar like the last thing away, can you?
So don't knock them out. Just constantly Roar.
And then
That's pretty mechanical. You can input that pretty fast.
Dear. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. All right then. Well, we've been going on for about 25 minutes, so thank you guys for watching this. Thank you, you two, for joining me with this video as well. So thank you, you two.
Thank you.
Yours.
And well, Jamie, you're going to be my opponent tomorrow in the multi-battle league. As part of
Oh,
Team
yes.
Jamie, I'll be as part of Team Cyberbaz. That'll be going up on my channel on Saturday, I think, and
That's
on
yeah, and our perspective is going on my channel.
on your side. Okay, so it's both of our
Yeah.
channels. All right then. So
Yeah.
there you go. Look forward to that. So again, thanks a lot, you two. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please leave your comments, down below so that we can see what everyone thinks. I know there's been a lot of negativity, but let's try and think how it might be positive. Maybe, I don't know. So thanks a lot, and goodbye for now.
Bye.
Bye.